Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Well, here we are. Happy Thursday to you. Hard to believe that we are in the final week of the month of July. Seth Harp, Harp on Sports with you here. Of course, Brent Beaird waiting in the wings as we start to look in the rearview mirror a little bit on SEC Media Days. Of course, other major conferences starting to have their little soirees, if you will, with the college football season a little over a month away. All right, where to begin, where to start, a lot to talk about. So let's bring Brent Beaird in again, Seth Harp in for the QB here on this Thursday morning. Brent, always good to talk to you. It's been too long. Let's look at this. SEC Media Days, I don't know how many this has been for you. I know I've been at this. It's hard to believe now for almost 20 years, at least when it comes to the structure of this. Let's start off with this, Brent. And I mean, you covered it. You're a part of it. You've covered a lot of these things. I'm trying to think, and you may know this more than me, and I'm sure you do. I'm trying to think of the last time somebody other than Alabama or Georgia wasn't picked to win this sucker. And lo and behold, here's Arch Manning in Texas. Handed the staff, handed the crown, and expected to carry that crown for the SEC in 2025.
Seth, good morning. Appreciate you helping us out. Yeah, it has been quite a while. 2019, when LSU won basically everything, that they won the conference title, and the rest of the time it has been a lot of Georgia and Alabama. So that is correct. Although what we've got now, as you mentioned, is Georgia and Texas picked to be in the SEC title game. But let's be honest, Seth, one of the things that's come out of this new structure with the playoff is we don't have everything that is goes down to the championship game, do we? I mean, we've got basically this year you've got Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and LSU picked to make the playoffs. That's what's so different about it now. And I don't mean to say that the winning a conference title in the SEC doesn't mean anything, because it always will. But we both know the reality of it is if you're in that top four, you've got a real chance of going to the playoffs. So right now, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and we're going to get to the structure of this coming up, and the latest on the college football playoff, and will it go to 16? The shares each conference lines up, but you're right. It's just it's a little bit different. It's a little bit. The gravity of it is not as much as it once was.
Yeah.
Again, PodUp with Matthews in the morning, coming to you live from the International Diamond Center Studios with locations across the state of Florida, right in Celebration Point in the heart of Gator Nation. So there you go, International Diamond Center Studios. If you have Facebook questions for Brent and I, fire them off. Brought to you by Belden Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Quality Plumbing as well for your YouTube questions. Residential, commercial plumbing services and emergency repair since 1984. Their name says it all. So when it comes to this, Brent, we look at and I'm trying to do this as fair as possible, right? I look at it in my brain. For years, it was always, okay, you had three teams at the top. Three teams that realistically could win this sucker. and I'm talking about the conference and win a championship.
Yeah.
We have Texas. Then Brent, do you put like three? I mean, I know we got Georgia there. Do you go Texas, Georgia, and then a collection of about 3 or 4 teams, including Florida and Alabama, that can get there?
Yes. LSU can get there, possibly too. And the way that the voting came out from the SEC media days was Texas and Georgia being in the championship game, and then LSU and Alabama still making the playoffs, which I think is probably fair. But what is also fair, to your point, is now listen, Florida's schedule is just brutal. There's no doubt about that. But if they can do a let's say they split in half the series that they've got about the middle of the season, that's going to be really very, very difficult for them. Basically, you've got LSU, you've got Miami, and then you've got a week off, then you've got Texas, and then you've got A&M. Seth, if they do what? If they split that, I think that would put them into a real position to be able to. And look, again, we're not saying they're going to win the SEC because the schedule is brutal as it is, but if you could split that situation, you got Mississippi State, then you got a week off to play Georgia. I mean, going into November the 1st, and particularly if Georgia has a loss, then boy, what will that mean for that game being again here in Jacksonville before it obviously has to go away for a couple of years because of the stadium rebuild. But Seth, that would put the Gators in which I would think would be a real situation to where they've got a shot, maybe even at winning the thing and certainly making the playoffs.
He is Brent Beaird. I am Seth Harp. This Thursday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning, 24th day of July, 2025. Brett, our daily guest, brought to you in part by Comfort Temp. Comfort Temp Heating and Air, the #1 HVAC company, professional experienced technicians, keeping you informed throughout the entire project. Visit comforttemp.com. That's comforttemp.com. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is the business. Peace of mind is the promise. We look at none of the SEC as a whole in key games and in non-SEC games, because we know the big ones in here, they're going to check the boxes. But I mean, I look at out of the gate here and gee, many Christmas. Texas and Ohio
Really?
State. I mean, I'm trying to think, and I'm serious, Brett, and we've had these big ones every year. I'm trying to think. And we had LSU, Oregon about 7-8 years ago. I know we've had Alabama with big games with USC, but USC didn't come into those things ranked like 3rd or 4th in the country. I'm trying to think the last time, Brent, we had a college football game of this magnitude to start the season, because let's face it, these two teams could start the year, and I wouldn't be shocked if these two teams end the year.
Oh, no. No, I agree with that. I mean, Texas and Ohio State are extremely good. But the thing about it is, I mean, you've got a 7:30 game on the first weekend of the season on that Saturday of LSU and Clemson that is really just about has as much to go on. And Seth, this is an LSU team that is desperate for an opening win. They've not had one in 4 to 5 years. Lost twice to FSU. That they've lost to USC. How big would it be for LSU to go to Clemson to win?
Oh God, and you mentioned LSU and Clemson, and it's kind of interesting because LSU needs that win. Dabo Swinney made the playoffs last year. He was able to get things. He's able to right the ship after a pretty brutal 2023. And then I look at a situation like you see in Tallahassee with Florida State. hosting or not hosting Alabama, but playing Alabama
Yeah.
with what Norvell went through and last year and how the wheels came off. And you talk about trying to get back on track in a statement there. And also if you're Alabama and landing and what happened last year, to me, that game is so interesting because in either scenario, Brett, one of those fan bases is going to have torches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Proverbially.
Absolutely. But I mean, that's going to be a brutal 3:30 game in the afternoon on the first weekend of September. My stars, how hot is that going to be? But it's a hot game on the field. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you've got an FSU team that thinks and knows it can be better than what it was. An Alabama team that is frankly, is a very veteran team in a lot of ways. So yes, that's a huge opening game. Now look, even if Florida State loses that game, they still have got enough schedule remaining in the SEC to where they could be much better. But these are really big games. And then at 11 o'clock on that first Saturday, we've got Utah and UCLA. But yet we've got A&M and Notre Dame that's coming up on Sunday. So that first weekend is going to be crucial for a lot of teams.
It wouldn't be the start of college football season without some controversy. And I know Shane and the gang have kind of danced on it a little bit here. SMU, what a run last year, and Rhett Lashley making some waves. Brett, already this week coming out and saying that the SEC is top heavy because only 6 schools have won the national title in the last 60 years, and the conference just doesn't have depth. I was trying to go through and figure out how many Big Ten teams have won the national championship the last 60 years. And if I'm not mistaken, I count 3.
Yes.
I don't count the teams that have come into the conference, right, in recent years. I went through and racked my brain in the Pac-12. I came up with – no, I'm talking about the Pac-12 from 12 months ago, right, or 18 months ago.
Right.
USC obviously won it. Washington had won it out there. I was trying to find any other conference, Brett, that had won more than 3. All of their teams, even in the Big Ten, it's been Ohio State, Michigan. Of course, Penn State wasn't there when they were winning their championship. So I guess top heavy is when half of your conference wins a national championship. I understand, and I understand when Bob Stoops at Oklahoma would poke at the SEC. I understand when certain Big Ten teams would poke. I'm trying to wrap my brain around why Rhett Lashley and SMU, why he thought he needed to poke.
Yeah, I don't get that either. But they decided that they may have been prompted to do so. By the media. I mean, when it's just you and your league and your media, it's easy to do what they did. But yes, I would agree. I mean, the Big Ten right now. I understand what they're trying to do as far as they're trying to get the SEC to get on board and go to 9 conference games along with them. A lot of the SEC coaches really don't want to do that. I mean, at some point, it would really help to have every conference in the same amount of games. But at the same time, I mean, having 6 different teams win the SEC, frankly, can be and is very impressive in a lot of ways. So it's just kind of talk that we get, but we talk about it because they mention it, and I certainly get it. But the Big Ten is nowhere near that 6 right now.
I mean, it's not even close. I thought it was fascinating, just the poking. It's like, what are you doing here? I'm okay with it if it's, I don't know, if it's USC, if it's Michigan, even if it's James Franklin and Penn State doing it. But it was weird coming from Rhett Lashley, a guy that coached at Auburn, right? So it was just, to me, it just seemed a little bizarre, maybe a little bit of a reach, especially the way that they got worked last year. in the playoff by a Big Ten team. It was just a little bit bizarre. PodUp with Matthews in the morning, brought to you in part by Gallo Car Wash, locally owned by University of Florida alums, and the only car wash that provides NIL opportunities to Gator athletes. Become a member and see why the Gators hate love bugs. Well, oh, I know we got a bunch of notes, but I saw this and I think it's tongue in cheek, Brent, but I had to ask you about it. Pat Narduzzi, who was a heck of a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, a good defensive coordinator at Michigan State, has done a decent job at Pitt. I'm not going to say great, but if you can get Pitt the ACC title, you've done something. He came out and, talked about Bill Belichick this week. And now all of a sudden it's starting to dawn on us, Brent, that we're 5 weeks away from seeing Bill Belichick coaching a college football team. Mm-hmm. And he said that he wouldn't be surprised at all if Bill has success and sees him in the ACC championship game, maybe against his squad. Brent, if Bill Belichick takes North Carolina to the ACC title game in year one, does that end the debate of who the greatest football coach of all time would be?
Well, it would certainly be a real feather in his cap to be able to do that. I'm not convinced they are that good yet. I mean, look, he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. There's absolutely no denying that. But are they going to have enough in his first year to do what they really want to do? I'm not sure that is the case, frankly. No, I frankly don't see it right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think and I know a lot of these things, and it's kind of tongue in cheek now because everybody's looking for any information that they can get, that they can run with. Because let's face it, storylines this time of year and people are more buttoned up than ever, at least when it comes to players. I just think what's interesting about this, Brent, all these years, that the whole talk is, hey, the athletes, they're going to say something and we're going to run with it as members of media, and oh my God, if they got to watch what they say and mind the P's and Q's. And what are we finding out? Coach says this, coach says this, coach says this, another coach. So all the news that's coming out of our media days out of the gate here are what coaches are saying.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And by the way, looking at the North Carolina situation, I mean, they start on that Monday night with TCU, and then you've got at Charlotte, Richmond, UCF. I mean, they've got Clemson. I mean, they could be realistically with their schedule. I mean, this team could be 9-3, Seth, right? Yeah. I mean, something of that ilk, which certainly wouldn't be bad. I don't think they're better than Clemson by any stretch, but still, and Gio Lopez supposed to be their quarterback. So I can see some improvement. I'm not sure they make their conference championship game in Bill's first year.
Brett, something I want to ask you is the news that's bubbled to the surface, the Memphis news. Memphis trying to SMU their way into the Big 12. Of course, SMU a couple years ago deciding to forego revenue sharing out of the gate, just wanting a seat at the table. And I'll be damned if it didn't pay off immediately for them. They get into the ACC, they increase their profile, they have bigger and better games, and they find themselves in the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship in year one. And that's oil money, that's Texas money. That's a little bit different type of a cash flow that they have. And now they're on the map, and SMU's back for the first time in 4 decades. I bring this up because Memphis wants to get into the Big 12, right? Yeah, and recently, what do we have? We had Arizona State, BYU, UCF, Houston. We've had this influx of Big 12 teams after Texas and Oklahoma of course, left to join the SEC. So, Brent, I'm sitting here and they're offering up $250 million.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
look at the
really.
Big 12 map and I'm thinking, okay, well, I know that these things come in tandem, right? So the Big 12 sits at what, 14 right now?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, Brent, why you wouldn't, for $250 million, Memphis would give you another team on the eastern side of the Mississippi, right? Because right now, if I'm
Yes.
not mistaken, it's
Yes.
Cincinnati, West Virginia, and UCF, right? It'd give you another team. It's smack dab in the middle of the country. Its proximity to Kansas and Iowa State it's there as well. And not to mention Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Brett, I usually I can come up with an angle or a thought. I don't get why the Big 12 wouldn't do this.
I look, I don't get it either. I mean, when you're offering $250 million in sponsorship to the league, I mean, you've got, and they actually tried to do the same thing SMU did, proposing to take no money. We mentioned the 250 million in sponsorships with partners like FedEx and Lowe's. And I don't think FedEx and Lowe's are going anywhere. Do you? Anywhere soon. So now, I mean, look, there may be just some bad blood here between the principals of the Big 12 and Memphis. But I'm with you. I want to dig into that and find out a little bit more about it, because on the surface, why you would give my stars, Seth, why you would give up $250 million to add to the coffers of the league is a real mystery to me.
Yeah, and I was trying to think of all the other teams that I understand the thought. Well, we can't do it because we're not going to be balanced. We need to find, a team to come in tandem with them. And I get that. I get that. But, I look around the country and look at different possibilities and who you can add and who you can look at. And I just look, there's always teams out there that you could throw into the fold that are in the Midwest and even in the South. Look, you can go anywhere now in this day and age.
Yeah,
where I mean,
can.
I hate to say this, but I'm saying this tongue in cheek, but UAB, Northern Illinois, with its proximity to Chicago. I know that they're probably looking for a partner in there, Brent, and that would make sense. And I know that the Big 12 had kind of wanted to do a little dance with Boise State there for a while, but Boise State now part of the Pac-12 establishment, so there's got to be a motive there why you would turn it down, and the only thing I can think of is that you have another tandem that you want to work with there. PodUp with Matthews in the morning, brought to you in part by Ruse-Ogre State Farm Insurance, a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go in the right direction, the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give a call, 352-240-1779. That's 352-240-1779. A Meldon Law Facebook question rolling in, Brent, and he says something that I think is fascinating about the NFL, but I'll expand upon it to college. This comes from Andy. How do you think the NFL's expected purchase of 10% of ESPN would impact future sports media deals? Because let's face it here, Brett, this could be something that you could see in college football as well, right?
Sure,
these conferences are monsters and have part ownership in networks. We've talked about players wanting part ownership in teams. I even talked about Patrick Mahomes getting part ownership in the Chiefs with his next contract that's going to come up. Brett, I think look, everybody knows everybody in this business. The money interests are all aligned. I get it. But to me, that's a dangerous world when you have league zone in the media companies.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it is too. And if you give someone some partnership, what do they want? That may not be talked about in the media. And I'm not saying there's always something that's ominous about all of these partnerships, but yeah, that's something I don't care if it's college football or the NFL. You've got to be very careful about that. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that I always hit the pause button on when it comes to that, because it leads to bias coverage, and I understand that exists naturally anyway. But the other thing about that too, Brent, that just scares me to death is that, let's face it, if I, as a TV market, own part of your league, then I am going to want my teams to succeed more, because it means
Absolutely.
money, which means all of a sudden, what's to stop, certain league from picking up the phone and saying, hey, let's help you craft this schedule this year, so that way we can get you into playing games in January. And if we try to say for 1 second that stuff like that doesn't happen, I mean, come on, who we kidding?
Yeah.
Other conferences, I know that, we're getting near halftime here on this edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning. SEC Media Days at Texas and Georgia, right? They got that right. Correct, Brent? I mean, those are the two teams. When you look at other conferences, and as they start to announce theirs, I'm just off the cuff here. We only have 4 major ones now, right? So Big Ten, I mean, Ohio State, picked in, they should be picked to win it. Big 12, ACC. I mean, Brett, you look in your crystal ball right now. What I know, Texas, Georgia, we kind of knew that was coming. Well, what are you kind of seeing in your crystal ball when it comes to the other conferences?
Great question. Frankly, I mean, at this point, I would say for the Big 12, I think you're probably looking at Arizona State, who came through last year. We understand. Dillingham Kenny has done a really good job with them, and they are extremely. That's a good school. He's been asked a lot as of late about where his team's going, where the conference is going. So he's kind of been a spokesman for them a little bit too. I think with the ACC, I mean, it's Clemson. At this point, I mean, it may shake up a little bit, but you've got one of the best quarterbacks is coming back. So I think they will at least be, particularly if they were able to beat LSU to begin the season. I mean, what they've got with Cade Klubnik is quite impressive too. So I can see ASU and Clemson certainly being the teams to beat in those other two conferences.
With Matthews in the morning, brought to you in part by Florida Victorious, proud NIL partner of the Florida Gators. Join today and help make Florida victorious. Look at a couple other things, because I know, Brett, you got to get going here. Overall, I mean, we're a month away, or a little 6 weeks away, I should say, 5.5, depending on the week 0. Interesting. One last tidbit here. The thoughts on week 0 becoming the first game of the year, first week of the year, moving everything up a week. So rivalry week would be the weekend before Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Is that what I'm seeing here, Brent?
Yeah.
And then really, I know you got to get going, but I thought that of the notes that you sent, I thought that was one of the more interesting things that isn't getting enough attention. That they're talking about moving the entire, or some coaches would like to see the season moved up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And the why you would do that would be so you don't have to be so pressed to get everything in. If you move it up to, if you make week 0 week 1, and depending on what verbiage you want to use for that, and Dan Lanning mentioned that, the Oregon coach with the Big Ten, that he said play some of these games faster and sooner. College football belongs on Saturday, not the NFL. I thought that was a good quote, but the reality is, why not? And we're going to have to. I mean, if you and I know it's only 4 games, but if you expand the playoffs and this thing's going where we think it's going, at some point, don't you have to do that, Shane? Now it's going to be. I'm not saying it's going to be comfortable for fans. I'm not, because you're talking about what, 2 games in August. If we did this, Seth, and not one, that we would have to look at. And what he's talking about is eliminate all the month-long playoff buys. Now, I would agree with that too. I mean, it obviously allows you to get rid of finals, and you get some work in with some other players, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, as you know, I mean, you can have a month off and the team lose incredible amount of momentum in what they could do. So I think eventually this idea works, and they will go that way.
I always thought it was interesting, Brett, because they said, well, they need that month off. The athletes need that month because it's Christmas and to spend time with their family. Yeah. It's like, sure. Yeah, nice try. You trot them out to play on Labor Day. Ole Miss and Mississippi State play on Thanksgiving. I mean, Memorial Day. Oh, yeah. You have SEC baseball taking place every holiday. Every holiday has got college sports being played on it. So that's cute that they said that, but they've always tried to play that out, or at least that's been the thought process. But we all know better than that. Yes. Yeah. So there we go. What looking at it now, and what are you looking at here the next few weeks, college football wise? What's got your antenna up?
Well, I think the 2 things. One is they've only got about a week to go before they get back into practice. So can these kids behave in the meantime and not get into an incredible amount of trouble? So that's one thing. The other thing that's going to be dealt with is obviously the playoff situation, and the Big Ten. They want to go with one formula, and then the SEC wants to go with another. You've got to come up with some kind of a instead of having an impasse, let's figure this out and do something with it. And because if they want to go, and TV wants to do this, Seth. Yes. If you want to go from 12 to 16 for next year, you've got to get this worked out. Now they're trying to see that the SEC adds a 9th game. I don't think the SEC is going to do that unless they see it somehow to their advantage. So those are the 2 things that we've still got to watch out for. In this expansion thing is we don't have a whole lot of time to go into it, and I know there are some issues here, but look, they need to stay in a room. And Mike Slime would have done this, a former commissioner. He would have said, okay, we're going to get everybody together and we're going to figure this out. Now, look, I'm not saying you can't do a lot of work through Zoom and other things of that nature. But Seth, at some point, don't you have to sit down in a room, and if it takes you 3 days to get this figured out, and so you can morph a little bit here and take away from this and add something to this, don't you have to do this to get this done?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that it's affected this sport for a while now is balance.
Yes,
and it's never been wealthier, and it's never been more imbalanced. Right. And Brett, a wise man was telling me this, a very wealthy man, I should say a guy that has money, not a billionaire, but a guy that has some cash. And he said, Seth, we're just a matter of time. And he said, I want you to think about this. It's not going to happen this year, but sometime in the near future, there's going to be somebody like a T. Boone Pickens that departs this earth and is going to donate $100 million to a school and say, I want everything that I give you to be used on NIL this year.
Yeah.
This year. And you're going to have a billionaire leave a ton of money to a school, and that school's going to have $100 million to go pay players for a year. He said, that's coming. That's when I won't tell you who that was, but when that individual told me that, I'm like, wow, that is going to happen, isn't it? Unless we put some guardrails on this coming up very soon. So just
and listen, to your point, the guardrails is going to be very important.
Yeah.
And are we going to have to go through Congress to get some of that done? Probably. But the reality of it, and they may have this thing figured out in 5 years, but for the here and the now, they need to do something to put, in other words, to limit what's happening. So I can see that happening very easily, and the sooner the better, frankly.
I get there, I'll take care of it for you, Brett. How about that? There we go. Brent Beaird with us here on this. It's hard to believe Thursday, July 24th edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning. I know you got to get running here. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it as always. Great talking with you, and look forward to doing it here again in the near future before the season starts, Brent.
Good. Thanks for helping us, Seth. Always, brother. Talk to you soon. Take care.
And enjoy it. We are way past halftime here on this edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning, brought to you in part by Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Also, Campus USA Credit Union. This day in sports history. What happened, ready for this, 42 years ago today? I'll tell you next as we roll on this Thursday, July 24th edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
International Diamond Center,
Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Meals Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Naysayers. Setbacks. Injuries. Life throws a lot of hurdles your way. The key is just keep jumping them.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Coach, you know what always impressed me? How you beat Florida State to win the 1996 National Championship.
And I was really impressed with your 06, 08, and 09 Gator teams.
And the way you coached Danny to the Heisman Trophy.
A lot like what you did with Tim Tebow.
You know, you won more SEC championships than you lost home games at the Swamp.
And you had plenty of super games in front of our Gator Nation.
Yeah, there really is something special about the Swamp.
I guess that's why we say about the Swamp, only the Gators get out alive.
To the Swamp and the Gators, with the best beverage served at Spur's Gridiron Grill, 100% agave, Los Linderos tequila, aged in bourbon barrels for a smoother taste.
I think you mean Head Beer Coach 1966 lager, a crisp, light, bodied lager for easy drinking.
Nope. Los Linderos tequila, smooth enough to drink neat, bold enough to elevate a cocktail.
1966 lager, enjoyed on game days in the fall or whenever you need a winning cold brew.
Los Linderos tequila.
1966 lager.
Los Landeros.
1966 lager.
Y'all stop bickering.
Okay, you're both wrong anyway. The best thing Spurrier's Gridiron Grill offers are Jerry's famous chocolate chip cookies.
Second half of the program here. Seth Harp on Sports in for Shane Matthews, QB. Brent Beaird, exit stage right, off to a dentist appointment. Got to thank him for stopping by. Make sure, if you haven't done so yet, that you create some bookmarks. Follow, share, like, subscribe. PodUp with Matthews in the morning, Facebook, YouTube, X. Listen on 37 digital platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeart. You know where to find it all. Of course, PodUp with Matthews in the morning, coming to you live from the International Diamond Center Studios, locations across the state of Florida, and in Celebration Point, in the heart of Gator Nation. That's the International Diamond Center's studios. Also, Facebook Live, you got questions for us. You can fire them off, courtesy of Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube questions, courtesy of Quality Plumbing, residential, commercial plumbing services, emergency repair since 1984. Their name says it all. And also, fire off those texts, courtesy of Titan MRI on the Titan MRI hotline. Campus USA Credit Union, this day in sports history, 42 years ago. 42 years ago today, which means July 24th, 1983. What happened on this day in sports history? Brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union, putting star power to work in your financial life. Over 90 years. That's Campus USA Credit Union. Okay, 42 years ago, sorry. Andy got it. Andy McIntosh got it on Facebook Live. Good for you, Andy. It's the Pine Tar game. George Brett running out of the dugout. Billy Martin. It's an iconic thing, right? I once was at an event where there was an autographed picture of that that was up for bidding, and I at silent auction at some event once, and I should have got it. But 42 years ago today, the famous George Brett Pine Tar game. God, I remember watching that 42 years ago. Man, time is undefeated. That's brutal. And that took place 42 years ago. But there you go. 42 years ago today. Campus USA Credit Union. A couple of other things as we, move on here. Brent talked about playoff expansion formats, and they're debating 5+7, 5+9, 5+11. Of course, the 5 conference championship bids, the 4 conference champions major, and then one of the quote-unquote at-large conferences, whether it be the MAC or the Sun Belt, or, you know where that goes. Pac-12 now. And then the at-large selections is they continue to try to figure this out, and everybody wants a bigger piece of the pie, don't they? And then you got Notre Dame entering the fray, of course. And these conferences, if you're the SEC and the Big Ten, you look around and you're 16 deep, and you essentially, when it gets right down to it, represent what? The collective interest of over 50% of college football? Because you do. The power and the wealth. I want to bring politics in this just for a second, but not in a political discussion. You have to look at the SEC and the Big Ten like you do in a presidential race when you look at like California and Texas and the Electoral College. That's how you kind of have to look at them in terms of the power and how important they are. And look, making those conferences have their locks or their guarantees. If anybody gets upset about it, I just kind of sit around and look at it and say, I understand where you're coming from in theory, because it's a deserving thing, but your schedules are all askew anyway. So you had the coach in Indiana, Zach Cignetti, coming out cracking the SEC this week, saying that they're going to adopt the SEC scheduling mark, and he's not wrong from like an Ole Miss or Mississippi State perspective with FCS opponents as opposed to tough neutral site games. But I'm here to tell you that last year Indiana got rewarded for that. SMU got rewarded for that. One thing that we've learned about the college football selection committees, at least when they've gone from, went from the BCS to 4 and now to double digits, if it goes to 14 to 16, is that it's going to change. It's like March Madness every year, right? Some year they get excited, and all of a sudden you see a couple of mid-major at larges that you didn't expect, and the next year it's loaded with ACC and Big Ten teams, and it's like, what'd you do? So it moves. There's no concrete on this. Like, oh, they set a precedent here. This isn't the Supreme Court that sets a precedent that they come back and revisit the precedent and stick on the precedent. No, it doesn't work that way. It's not established law or a given. So I whatever thing that they're kicking around here, it's going to change. It's the Big 12 wants 5 plus 11. That's what they want. They want 5 plus 11. The SEC in the Big Ten are more concerned, not necessarily about the 5 plus 11, but they want 8 of the 16 teams. The Big Ten and the 8, and look, I get it from their perspective. The SEC and the Big Ten financially are representative of 60% of the finances in college football. They're representative of 60% of the money. They are. So look around and go, wait a second, if we're more than half of the moneyed interests that keep this thing alive, then we deserve at least half of the bids, don't we? It makes sense from that perspective when you swing the pendulum that way. So everybody has their own idea and what everybody thinks should happen. I think it just makes sense, doesn't it? Doesn't it? When you get right down to it, however you decide it and lay it out, we're going to end up with 16. We are. And it's going to be brutal because you're going to have, you sit there and say have it, but you're going to have situations like where you had last year where, are you going to have it where you have like a 11-1 or 12-1? Let's make the case for like a Utah State. Are you always going to bury them at 16? Even though they may be ranked 12th or 13th, or are you going to end up, let's say this year, are you going to end up, say Texas is sitting there 12-0, 13-0 at the end of the year. Now, I know that wouldn't apply this year because you only got 14 teams, but you imagine if you're Texas and you're sitting there at 13-0 at the end of the year and you're smiling and your reward is the 16th seeded Florida Gators that come in at 9-3, or the 16th seeded Penn State Nittany Lions that come in at 9-3. Like, man, this is how we're going to start this thing. This is how this thing's going to begin. So I guess 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But that to me is going to be interesting to see when it's all said and done how they line that up. But a long way to go when it comes to them knocking heads together. And by the looks of it, I don't think they get it to 16. I don't. I think it stalls for a year and it sticks at 14 for another year or two. PodUp with Matthews in the morning on this Thursday, brought to you in part by, what is it? JF Hayden Liquors. The Pouncey twins, Mike and Marquise, invite you to try the Mango Martinis at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, handcrafted with their JF Hayden Liquors, or liqueurs, depending on your pronunciation. Try those flavors and find your favorite and shop jfhaydens.com. That's jfhaydens.com. So there we go on that front. So we getting ready to wrap this bad boy up again. I looked around the landscape as I keep saying 5-6 weeks away, to make sense of where this season is going. Last year everything was new. The expansion to 14 teams in the playoffs, everything was ripped apart, right? And we've had twists and changes in the past, right? A&M comes into the SEC, Missouri comes in. It's like, oh, this is a little bit different. Even going back to when Arkansas and South Carolina came in, okay, this is a little bit different. A little different. It was weird when Penn State came into the Big Ten, and yeah, a little bit of a change. And then last year we went from, 4 playoff teams to 14 playoff teams, boom. And then on top of that, you start to layer in other things as well, like, oh, by the way, the Pac-12 is going to essentially dissolve for a year. Everybody's going to get shoved into the ACC, the Big 10, and the Big 12. Oh, by the way, Texas and Oklahoma are going to make the SEC a super mega power conference. And the biggest incoming star in the history of college football, he is, Arch Manning, incoming star, I didn't say star, incoming, is going to be this focal point. And then in year 2, everybody that mocked and laughed at Texas, good luck in the SEC. Then everybody that said those things that were part of the media hand Arch Manning his staff and his crown saying, it's yours, baby. The team is loaded, it's stacked. They're the hunted now in the conference. Not DeBoer in Alabama, not Kirby and his speed racers in Athens. It's Sarkisian and hook 'em. Yeah. Now that's had a chance to sit in. And now it's like, okay, this is where we are now. This is what college football is going to become. This is, for the time being, movement. Everybody's kind of stable here. And, we made mention of Memphis trying to buy their way into the Big 12. You had stability in terms of conference realignment. Now, the Pac-12 added Boise State, and they've got their own little thing going on out there. But it's like plate tectonics. It's ever changing and ever growing and ever moving. And I sit here and I look at it, and I'm like, look, whether you decide that the SEC and the Big 10 each get 3 locks or 4 locks, that's fine. The structure of it, if you want to go from 14 to 16, that's fine. But I want to leave you with something that I said earlier to Brett that somebody told me that I think is a buckle up moment, because it's coming. It's coming. And that is the fact that this person told me there's going to be a billionaire that, when they leave this earth, is going to give T. Boone Pickens style hundreds of millions of dollars to the university and say, hey, look, I'm going to give you $100 million. I want every single penny to be used to bring in athletes, NIL-wise, in year 1. The first year I'm off this earth, if we don't win a championship, we're going to buy one. Telling you, that is coming. So somebody in D.C. in the next 18 to 24 months needs to fix that, don't they? Make sure that doesn't happen. Again, PodUp with Matthews in the morning with you here on this Thursday, 24th day of July, 2025. Need to thank a ton of people, Freddie Wiebe, Wiebe Marketing, Shane Matthews, for allowing me the opportunity to be his backup quarterback today. Of course, Brent Beaird for swinging by as well. Not to mention all the sponsors, everybody, Zach Rothrock, for getting this party started and navigating us throughout the early morning hours here on this Thursday. And of course, PodUp with Matthews in the morning, coming to you always live from the International Diamond Center Studios, locations across the state of Florida, and in Celebration Point, in the heart of Gator Nation. Facebook Live, can't thank Andy and everybody that chimed in on Facebook Live, courtesy of Meldon Law, only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. YouTube questions, courtesy of Quality Plumbing, residential commercial plumbing services since 1984. And, of course, Brent, myself, joining you, courtesy of the Titan MRI hotline. Of course, you have your questions, 352-353-7465. That's 352-353-7465. So there you go. Andy, really quick, what's your take on the 12-year-old Little Leaguer in New Jersey who was suspended for flipping the bat while Little League internationally and international actually promotes bat flipping? You know what? It's ridiculous. You want to take him out of the game for an inning or two, fine. If you flip your bat, you're out for the next 6 outs. Fine. But he's suspending. Kid's played his whole life, and you're going to punish a 12-year-old. Sandy, it's ridiculous. It really, really is. All right, there you go. Need to thank everybody involved again. As I said, I know QB and JC will be back tomorrow, taking you into the weekend. So enjoy your Thursday afternoon, late morning, and everybody stay out of trouble, okay? For Zach Rothrock, for Brent Beaird, everybody involved with PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Have a safe and enjoyable Thursday.